steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money.
It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
It's Ferrall coast to coast in the biggest way possible right here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty. We will get Go for the Two, Joe Lisi in here momentarily as well. We have a lot to do today, of course. We are going to talk about Michigan's triumphant victory, the national championship last night, 34-13 over Washington. We will discuss plenty with that. We got a few Harbaugh clips for you. We're going to get into all the NFL for this weekend. We have a few NBA games tonight. We have our usual Tuesday cast of characters as well. Plenty to do on C2C here on a Tuesday. We start, as always, with the birthday roll call. Not great today, I'm not going to lie to you. Not a great birthday roll call. Alec Manoa, 26, House Single A. Marcus Peters, 31. Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco at 46 years old. One of the greatest hockey names of all time. Radek Bonk checking in at 48 today. Muggsy Bogues, legend, 59. And Bruce Boudreau, who had a lot of great regular season teams but could never win in the postseason as an NHL head coach, 69 years old today. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. There we go as we get rolling here on a Tuesday C2C. All right, Michigan, of course, wins last night. What a job by them. Really, they hit them in the mouth early, and Washington just wasn't able to respond. Penix missed 1,000 throws. I know he was hurt. He could barely walk off the field at the end of the game. But I thought the Washington defense played with a lot of heart after getting ripped up in that first quarter. They gave the Washington offense chance after chance after chance, got tons of stops, and that high-powered Husky offense with Penix and Aduze just could not get anything going. They had to keep giving the ball to Johnson, who was playing on one foot. So things just didn't go well. I think that last night kind of boiled down to you had one team on one side that had been there the last couple of years, lost in the semis, finally got to the title game, and they weren't going to be denied. And they were the more physical team on both lines against a team that had a great season, was there for the first time. And not saying they didn't want it more, but just Michigan had that little bit of extra push. And they were able to get it done. Donovan Edwards had a big night, which means that Joe Lisi had a big night. We'll discuss that. We got a lot of Harbaugh, including him talking about what's next for him. Will he go to the NFL? We welcome in all of our radio affiliates for Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High and for Scotty. Joe Lisi joins me soon. Sirius XM, Channel 159, Sports Byline, and the mightier 1090 ESPN Radio in sunny Southern California. Great to have everybody with us here today. So plenty on last night's championship game. Also in hour number one, we always have Gabe Morency every day on C2C. We will talk to him. Of course, he's excited. He's pumped up for Michigan winning, that's for sure. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us every Tuesday on C2C. He will be here as well. Hour number two, it's never too early. We always do this on Coast to Coast the day after somebody wins a championship. We got to give you the odds for next year's championship. And next year will be a lot different in college football. We go to 12 teams instead of 4. More teams are going to get an opportunity to take a bite at the apple. So we'll see what the odds board looks like. I do not believe either of the teams that were in the game last night are close to the top of that board. So we will check that out today on Coast to Coast. Then we start to get into this weekend. Super wild card weekend. NFL playoffs are here. Regular season is over. Get rid of the bad teams. It's only the heavies now, 14 left, as they all are trying to get to Vegas in February. We will go through all the games. We've got D'Amico Ryans on the Texans and the Browns today, Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, who I saw today basically taking guys off the street to go and play in Kansas City on Saturday night. A very tough scene. I mean, Justin Houston, they need any kind of body that they can find to potentially rush the quarterback and stop the run on Saturday. Really tough scene for the Dolphins, how hurt they are. And it's going to be -10, which doesn't help their situation either. Sean McDermott on the importance of playing in Orchard Park. Oh, is it important or not? You got to be kidding me. The next 2 weeks, hopefully, they'll be playing games in Orchard Park. TJ Watt officially out for Sunday. We knew that already. Mike Tomlin made it official this morning. Also, Davis Maddock in hour number 2, the lion's share, as he has got his plays for tonight. We will talk to Davis, and then We will get into the NFC side of things. Mike McCarthy doesn't want to talk about the Packers, but spent 5 minutes talking about the Packers yesterday, or his time with the Packers. Of course, he's got to talk about the current Packers and getting ready to stop Jordan Love this week. Doesn't want to talk about his time there. He says that. It sure doesn't seem that way. Sean McVay in our first clip of the week, and there's a lot of juicy storylines in the NFL playoffs this week. McCarthy, Packers, Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City, but none will be played out more than the Stafford-Goff meeting, Stafford going back to Detroit. And look, I love it. I say it's going to be played out. You're going to hear tons about it. I love the storyline. I think the game is going to be awesome on Sunday night. I think it's going to be the most exciting game of the weekend. I think that total's high for a reason. But you are going to be sick of hearing about Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, and the Rams-Lions trade from a few years ago by 8:15 on Sunday night. We'll also have Sirianni, who he's got to start worrying too. He needs to get things done Monday night in Tampa for the Eagles. Hour 3, we'll get into the non-playoff edition of the NFL, including today, another coach getting chopped. Mike Vrabel, Titans, finished, done. That's right. After 6 seasons there, had some really good years, but the last 2, of course, were not very good, and they chopped Vrabel. There have been some stories the last couple weeks that him and the GM, who they brought in last year, didn't really get along. I think Vrabel's a very good coach. I know me and Joe are going to disagree on this later. I think Vrabel's a very good coach, and all these teams that have openings right now, they should already be lining up to get Vrabel services. But then there's that New England connection. We'll see how that goes in the next couple of days as well. We've got Josh Harris today. He thinks Washington's going to be the best gig to get. Arthur Blank on chopping Arthur Smith, which we waited all season for, and we will do all of that. We have NBA tonight. Bad news for the Pacers. They beat the Celtics last night, but Tyrese Halliburton with the hamstring injury looks like only grade 1, maybe a couple of weeks, but still, they carried him off the floor last night. Not a good scene there. Clippers destroyed the Suns. Heat beat how about the Jazz, who have been on a little bit of a roll? He beat the Rockets. Jazz beating the Bucks in Milwaukee last night, 132-116, as the Jazz have gotten things cooking for once this year. Ja Morant done. His season was very short. Missed the first 25 games due to suspension. Came back for a couple of weeks and now finished. Shoulder surgery for Ja as he is out of the mix for the Memphis Grizzlies. A complete lost year for them. And at this point, you lose every game and you find another big player. You try to get another top 3 pick, get another big player to put next to Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. That's what they should be doing in Memphis for the rest of this season. We have college rack tonight. Tons of great games. Houston is visiting Iowa State tonight. Texas and Cincinnati, Missouri and Kentucky. Purdue, number 1 Purdue is at Nebraska tonight. We'll see if they can cover a fat number there. Duke and Pitt. BYU and Baylor. Good game in the Big 12. And we love the late night Mountain West with Colorado State, Boise, Wyoming, and Utah State. There's hockey tonight as well. A good slate of games. So Ferrall coast to coast on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty. Joe Lisi joins me next. We're just getting rolling here. SportsGrid Radio. Next few hours, you're with us. Let's roll, baby. We're back after this.
Fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarter of the man his dad was. I'm sorry, he's kind of an embarrassment. The only thing I'll give him credit for, which is the only thing he's ever done right in his life, is get that team to Las Vegas for $6 billion.
The teams that bring in a lot of transfers, I was talking to Jeff about this, they need time. They're at a point now in conference play they can start to get rolling.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back, the irony. I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know. They're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Ferrall
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live. Prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on. There's no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, what's up? You watching the game? Or maybe the one later? Put a little BetMGM action on it, and now any game becomes the game. When you got overs and unders, you're in it every time they throw the ball, kick the ball, dribble the ball. Maybe it's not even a ball.
Who needs a ball?
Now that bet's got you watching every inning, half, round, period, set, hole, a lap. Right from the edge of your seat.
And we are back. Ferrall coast to coast on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty. We'll get Joe in here in a moment. But first, we have to, of course, tell you that BetMGM, they are getting themselves set up for Big Game 58. That is right. And they have got this deal for you. Bet $5 and get $158 instantly. What? Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $5 into your newly created account. Place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price. Once you have placed a bet, you will receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. Use bonus code SG158. That is right. Big game 58. BetMGM getting you ready to go here. Tremendous job as always. Go out and get it done. All right, every Tuesday and Wednesday on Coast to Coast, you get the extended version of the highly popular, I guess we can now say as we hit the new year, SportsGrid radio show, Carver and Lisi, which airs weeknights at 8 p.m. East, featuring myself and the true encyclopedia of college football. I mean, if you were watching the College Football Today special last night, I mean, you just saw greatness at work. And that was the go for the 2, Joe Lisi, getting it done left, right, and center. Hi, Joe. How are you?
Oh, Carver, I love you. I missed you last night. We had the Billy Club special. Smash him.
You had the Billy Club special out. There was never a time I wanted. If there was ever a time, Joe, that I wanted to basically get a Dabo on the bat phone and say, "Can we get the college player props to New York now? You think we can get the college player props?" Joe sitting there with all these Donovan Edwards tickets. Can we please start getting college player props? Oh, my goodness.
I totally forgot. You know, when I texted you the tickets.
And that joke gives me the salt in the wound this morning. You know, it's not good. Did you clean up on the Edwards problem? Joe, I mean, it's like the 900th time I've told you. I can't bet college player props in New York, Joe. I can't bet them. Did you clean up on Edwards? No, I didn't clean up on Edwards, Joe, because I couldn't bet it.
I wish I was live at halftime with you and Scotty. I was off the rails.
You needed a break.
The first one. After the first touchdown, I just, you know, we talked about it on Coast to Coast because I have the clip. I gave you out Edwards 5 days before the championship game, and I didn't jump into the 2-touchdown market until about 20 minutes before game time.
Of course.
It was
an add-on.
It was
an add-on.
It was an add-on. You know what? And you kept saying, yeah, why not? 1, 2. That was the saving grace. You pushed me over the edge. How many you want? You want 3? Now,
why not? You're greedy. Just keep going.
Hang on.
Greed paid off last night.
I did get a little knocked around on Sunday because that gutless Jacksonville team. All right, that gutless
that
team.
Was great.
So typically, I started at 40 yards with Edwards and altered it as high as 80. If I had a great Sunday, I would have taken the 90 and 100, which, you know, I'm a glutton anyway. But the 2 tutties at 10-1 was good enough for me. I said it. I was saying it all on the clip.
I like that. It was good enough for me. It's very generous of you, Joe. I do want to get to that. We're going to do a lot of NFL later in the show. Big news today, obviously, was that Vrabel got chopped from Tennessee. Me and Joe will discuss that later because that's probably going to take an entire segment of me and him yelling at each other about whether Mike Vrabel's a good coach or not. So, Joe, we'll give everybody the tease here. We will discuss Vrabel getting chopped later on Coast to Coast, and me and you will go at it a little bit. But let's start with last night, and that is, as we're talking about, Michigan beats Washington. You know, it was a weird game in this aspect, Joe. It kind of looked like at the beginning that Michigan was going to absolutely smash them. The 3 long runs, which generated 17 points right out of the gate, you kind of left you wondering, is the Washington defense even going to get a stop and allow Penix to get back in it? And the crazy part was, Joe, they got stop after stop after stop after stop, and the Washington offense just could never get it going. Penix, I know he was banged up, but he didn't play well, Joe. He missed guys, especially the one that I still can't understand is that Adudze one on the 4th down when that was a touchdown, Joe, when he was going down the right side of the field there. I don't know why DeBoer kept putting Johnson out there on 1 foot. I couldn't figure that out. I think they made a lot of mistakes, Joe, and Penix just didn't play good enough.
No, you're right, Carver. I mean, that game was dictated in terms of the first half from a physicality perspective. And I actually thought Jim Harbaugh and the coaching staff allowed Washington to get back into the ballgame because they should have stuck with the rushing attack. They're up 17-3. At one point, they were averaging 17 yards per carry. I mean, how do you have the calls that blow me away is it's 17-3. The Michigan defense gets a stop. You start the drive on your own 46, and then he decides to put the ball into J.J. McCarthy's hands. 3 and out, allows Washington to cut the deficit, and then all of a sudden they played back and forth. Then they went back to the rushing attack when the game got a little tighter, and the offensive line wore them down. I agree with you. Michael Penix, very inconsistent. A lot of throws were high, and that was a testament to the Michigan defense. Entering that game, only allowed 7 touchdowns all year and a 55% completion percentage. They also forced 16 interceptions, got the 17th late. They forced Penix to work down the field, and that was the recipe to win that ballgame.
I said this to Scotty on the halftime last night, Joe, when we gave you guys a breather. It felt to me like Harbaugh wanted to get J.J. McCarthy right? Like they got loaded up with the run game. And it's like, I got to let JJ eat a little bit here so he looks good too. And you're right. That's what let Washington hang around in the game because Washington's strength on D was their pass defense. It was that way all year. They've got good corners. And it was like Harbaugh was like, I got to get JJ in the fun because he's talked about him so glowingly all year. And it's like he didn't want to leave with JJ throwing for 89 yards and 7 completions. He had to try to get him in the mix a little bit. Let me play this, Joe, before I get the game. Here it is. Donovan Edwards last night. Joe, was absolutely all in on this guy for the last week and a half, and he gives him 2 tutties last night on ESPN. Here we go.
Donovan Edwards rotates in at the back. He's got the football. Bumps into traffic and escapes. Donovan Edwards racing to the end zone. Michigan flexing immediately. 41 yards. On the first possession, back in the game, and he's loose again. Edwards off and running. Welcome back, Donovan Edwards. 46 yards.
So the two long runs for Edwards, we told you last night, Joe was going bonkers on the College Football Today special. I mean, look at this guy. I couldn't play it all day, but give me a little taste of Joe last night as Donovan Edwards is getting a house call here. Look at this.
From this. There he goes. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone.
Joe basically whipping the chair like a horse down the stretch. He's gone. Let's go. Let's go. Great job.
You ought to see the second one. I was screaming out Roman Hemby. They go, why Hemby?
What was that about?
All right. Every time we did College Football Today last year, Ben and Kevin were hot on this Roman Hemby. For weeks out of here, Hemby. So that was my glorious moment. I just started screaming. And Greg Sussman went to Maryland, so I gave a Maryland prop.
Joe, later on, I have a couple things from Harbaugh because obviously him winning the national championship, a very big deal after 9 years at Michigan, and his future, a very big deal. So I will give you that later on. We'll come back. Gabe Morency, very happy, of course, that his Michigan Wolverines got it done. We'll hear from him. DeCourcy, a lot to do. Coast to coast. We keep rolling on the grid right after this.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division favorite.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6th and the 7th seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles, ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. And I know that it is a great day for Gabe Morency after the Michigan Wolverines win the national championship last night over the Huskies in Houston. Of course, Sports Rage Late Night every weeknight, 10 p.m. East, right here on the grid. All right, Gabe. I mean, look, you've been waiting a long time for this. We know that. We talk to you all the time. We see you tweet about it all the time. Michigan winning a national title. How are you feeling here the next day?
Well, you know what? I don't feel so great the next day because I celebrated last night during and after the football game. But it has been a long time coming, Carver. The Michigan Wolverines, if you look at like Michigan as a whole, collectively, I mean, you had the last two playoff, the college football playoffs, third time in a row. Remember the Fab Five made it to two finals in a row.
Yeah.
Lost them both. This is just off the top of my head, Carver, but I believe if you include the Fab Five, I think Michigan are 0-5 in national title games. It's hard to keep up, right? They lost to Villanova. Yep. They lost to Louisville. They lost, might be 0-4. Yeah, it's 0-4, the two with the Fab Five. But how many other times, bro, did Michigan make the Final Four over the last, 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
I don't know, every second year type of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'm going with this is Michigan have knocked on the door for a long time. And to be real, guys, for a program that gets talked about and is hyped up as much as Michigan does, the wins aren't there, right? The basketball team, the fact the basketball team hadn't won since 1989. Football team hadn't won since 1997. And they've had so many great players, and there's just been, this or that and one thing or another. But it finally all came together last night for Harbaugh as well, Carver, who had been knocking on the door, never won a major big-time champion, won conference championships and NFC conference championships. Now he's got the championship, bro. And I got to tell you what, the next step, I do believe he's going to the National Football League. He's gunning for the Super Bowl, bro. And I wouldn't bet against him. This is it. He's got the next thing is all right, now I get the Super Bowl. I won up my brother, and I joined the exclusive territory and company of Barry Switzer and Jimmy Johnson of winning a national championship at the Super Bowl.
And I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, that is what he's going to do. I thought he had a great line last night in the postgame where he was like, I could sit at the big table now with my brother and my dad who had won national championships. I thought that was very cool. But he also said something in another interview on the field where he was like, I already told the kids we usually start February 14th. We're moving the start of spring practice back a few weeks. He had another interview where he talked I'm going back to Michigan and everything. These are the plans. And I'm with you, Gabe. I think that he's going to go to one of these jobs, whether it's the Chargers or Washington, whichever one he finds most attractive, and go and get that next level that you're talking about with Johnson and Switzer.
And also, it's next level money, but I don't think it's about the money with him. Because, look, Michigan supposedly, reportedly, Carver, Michigan's offering him in the $15 million range. It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good.
Listen, buddy,
all right, so what, you're going to get 22 a year in the NFL? Well, it's going to be 20 plus. Peyton gets 20. Same agent. Word is that's sort of the starting point, 20, 25 million a year, which is absolutely crazy, but that's the market that we're in right now. But you're right, Carver. Thing is with Harbaugh, and I'm not going to pretend to know. Nobody knows. He doesn't know. I think in his mind, who knows, bro? Maybe his father, you know what I'm saying? Sort of has a feeling he's a Rubik's Cube. So like you said, I caught that as well. So, yeah, we're going to move spring practice back. We won. This is great, and all that type of stuff. And also, I couldn't overlook and J.J. McCarthy, Carver, every time he spoke after the game. This is really, this is great, but I'm sad because this is the last time we're ever going to be together. He kept saying that over and over.
Yeah.
We're never going to play together. We're never going to be together again. And I was thinking, well, what does that mean? You could come back. Harbaugh could come back. But I think if anyone would know, it would be JJ, too. I think maybe, Harbaugh would tell him, this is it, bro. Like, this is it, you and me. Like, this is it, right? The last game. I don't know, Carver. Like you said, 1 minute he's talking about spring practice, another time, and he's hiring Don Yee, Carver. He didn't hire Don Yee to run football practices. So I don't know what the hell the guy's up to, but he's going to take offers, bro. We'll put it that way.
No, he's definitely going to take offers.
He's going to listen to what you have to say. Doesn't mean like he's begging for an NFL job, but if you call, he'll listen to what you have to say.
No doubt. And you bring up McCarthy. I thought the one aspect of the game where maybe Michigan got a little bit off track was early in that game, Gabe, they were smashing them. I mean, it looked like if they wanted to, they could have ran for 400 yards, 500 yards last night. I mean, they were running the football at that kind of clip. And we know how much Harbaugh loves J.J. McCarthy and how he's talked about J.J. McCarthy this year. And it's almost like after those first 3 drives and those long runs, he sat there thinking to himself, I got to let J.J. eat a little bit here. And he tried to throw the ball over the place, and that's what kept Washington in the game.
I agree with you, but that's on Ferrall Moore, right? The offensive coordinator, and I totally agree, Carver. I think they were like, all right, now let's let J.J. look good, and start him throwing the ball all over the place. And full disclosure, J.J. did not play well last night.
No.
You know what? He's got a little Josh Allen in him a bit. Yeah, he reminds me of Joe Burrow a lot, but he was too amped, bro. Like, it was just, I could tell right away. Like, the ball, he was throwing the ball 113 miles an hour, like, on every play. He's a strange dude, man. Like, I'm sure you know about the meditating and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I saw him.
Yeah, bro. I could tell it didn't work in Energy Stadium, bro. He's in this, like, mall, indoors. Like, at the Rose Bowl, it was like zen. He was there in the sun and the shadows alone, and it was this peaceful moment. There, he's, like, trying to do this in, like, a shopping mall or something, right? And I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work for this kid tonight. I just sort of knew. I was like, I don't think he's going to be on top of things, but it'll be all right. Sort of like Josh Allen. He gets too fired up. Calm down, Josh. Just dial it back a little bit. I think JJ got so amped last night. He didn't play great, but what an awesome quarterback, bro. 27-1, Carver. 27-1, bro. What can you say about the kid? And, oh, yeah, by the way, he won a high school state championship in Illinois as well. So, high school state championship, college national championship, Super Bowl could be next for this kid, bro. He's a winner.
Maybe, but I don't know if you think he should come out this year, Gabe, or should he? I mean, maybe a little bit more college football. There's a lot of quarterbacks at the top of this draft already. He hadn't been mentioned.
Kuiper's got him ranked 5th. But the thing is, Carver,
but next year he could be second.
Quarterback,
next year he could be second ranked.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Shedeur Sanders next year. Oh, there's a couple other guys, on top of my head, but Shedeur Sanders, I guess, would be the front runner. But what more can he do? So what? He's going to go back to college to improve his draft stock by 3 spots? And don't fool yourself. I think JJ is going to go higher than people think, too. Like, I think he's one of those dudes. He'll get Daniel Jones. And he's better than Daniel Jones, but you know what I mean? There's going to be someone that says, yeah, I don't care. I'm taking this kid 6. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not. I don't want to hear that he's supposed to go 11. I've been thinking about it, looking at a lot. There's a lot of teams in the mix here. The Falcons need a quarterback. To me, J.J. McCarthy went into last night, Carver, sort of 10 to 15 in the draft. I was talking to draft people before the game. They were saying, no, he's worked his way into the top 10 for real, and coaches are going to love him when they meet him at, like, the combine and stuff like that. But nothing's official yet. And plus money, Carver, he doesn't really need it. Word is he could get like $3, $4, maybe $5 million if he returns to Michigan. That's the new dynamic, isn't it, bro? Like, these kids, like, I don't need to go to the NFL. Michigan's offering me $4.2 million to come back.
Because he's not going to make that. Let's say he went in the second round. Let's just say he's a second round pick next year, and he's going to sit behind somebody. He ain't going to make $5 million next year doing that. I mean, he may
No,
$5 million
you're right.
being the quarterback in Michigan. So it's
Can you believe that?
it
You
really,
make more in college. And you're like, wow.
It's changed the game.
You guys are going
It's
to pay me
changed the game
$1.8
for
million
these
a
guys.
year, and I'm going to be a backup. And I don't know, like, you know, man, it's
Yeah.
true. He's good
Unreal.
though. I think the Vikings are a good fit for him, Carver. I was sort of looking at the teams.
Yeah.
Where the Vikings pick 11th. Sort of that right there. Listen, Caleb Williams is going to be the number one quarterback taken. I think this Drake May stuff is a little bit overdone. It's like, okay, he's got a nice arm, Carver. Calm down. He ain't the next second coming. You know what I mean?
I think it's like Levis last year, honestly. I think it's like Levis.
Yeah.
All the gas that he got.
Good comparison. Well, I think he's more polished, but as a quarterback than Levis, but I'm just like this whole and Drake May. It's like, okay, I don't know. Penix is good. I don't think Penix should be like a top 10 guy, though. But Penix is, he's going to be a first rounder. I like Bo Nix. None of those guys went 27-1. Like McCarthy's got that sort of hit factor.
Yeah, I like.
And you got Jaden Daniels, who was born to be a Raider.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's very true. Only a minute left, Gabe. Tomorrow, me and you will talk about how the Bills are going to beat the Steelers, Chiefs, and Ravens on their way to Las Vegas, but we'll save that for tomorrow. Tonight, do you got anything in the hockey or NBA tonight?
I was looking at the NBA. Started off with the association today, Carver. Listen, the LA Lakers, I know they got it done the other night against the Clippers. Good for them. They should not be laying 4.5 points. This Raptor team, 3-1 since the trade. It's been a good trade for both teams, Carver, the Knicks and the Raptors. Quickly is a stud with the Raps. He's already hit it off with Barnes and everybody, and there's a good chemistry going on. They're having fun. The Raptors are 3-1 straight up, 3-1 to the over since the deal. They kicked the crap out of Golden State the other night. They had a day off. They're actually better than their record is, Carver, the Raptors, 15-21. Like they're not an easy out, bro. Give me the 4.5 and the over tonight with the Raptors. And I'll have some hockey picks on my Twitter.
And Gabe, we'll see you tonight. Sports Rage late night, 10 p.m. East here on the Grid. See you tomorrow, Gabe.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
Right now, he's a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6th and the 7th seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today every week. It's great to have Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News with us. Mike, happy Tuesday. As always, my man, how are you today?
I am doing fine. How are you?
We're good. We're good. We've got several things to get to today, including the Coast to Coast Bowl between the Steelers and the Bills coming up later this Sunday. But let's start by putting the bow on last night and what's been a long and winding road for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Going there, of course, 9 years ago, back to his alma mater. There were times that everybody wanted him out of there, but that's got to make it all the sweeter, Mike, when you finally grab the ring like Jim did last night.
Well, I mean, he's not only gone through, and I don't want to make some of this look like adversity because it was somewhat self-created or somewhat inside the program created, but it has been kind of a interesting adventure from the suspension at the end of the season over the in-person scouting scandal to the earlier suspension at the start of the season over questions the NCAA had about some of the recruiting that was done during the pandemic to him having to basically take a pay cut after they struggled at times, especially around the pandemic years. It's been really a climb to here, but once he got that rock to the top of the mountain, I mean, they've been terrific. Last 3 years, Big Ten champions. Last 3 years, winners over Ohio State. This year, the national champion. He's done a phenomenal job. And I certainly have to give him credit for what he's built as a coach. It's not a typical modern college football champion, if you think about it. I mean, they got very little in terms of passing out of J.J. McCarthy last night, but they still were able to dominate the game. That is not the way it had been done for most of the prior 20 years or so.
It really had not. And the other thing that after the game, of course, the questions immediately start with, well, you're going to go to the NFL now. All right, you got to come back. You get back. And he kind of gave the, guys, just let me enjoy this for a little bit. Right. Let me relax and enjoy the win. But, there were moments in several of the press conferences did, whether it was at the podium or on the field with ESPN, where at one side, Mike, you hear him going, well, I already told the guys we usually start February 14th, but we're going to move practice back a couple weeks, and we're going to get out there in March, and we're going to start going. And then on the other side, it's I'm sitting at the big table with my brother and my dad now, and there's like this feeling that he wants to join that Jimmy Johnson, Barry Switzer club of Super Bowl, college football national championship. What do you think he does, Mike?
Well, but let's think about that for a second. Jimmy Johnson, how happy was his experience in the NFL, if you think about it? The Cowboys' years ended badly. The Dolphins' years were awful by his standards. Barry Switzer, very few people considered him to be the true architect of that championship. Nobody questioned what he accomplished at Oklahoma. We saw Nick Saban do it. LSU goes to the NFL, runs right back to college. So I don't necessarily see the allure there. And where it really misses me, this talk, and of course this is all his choice, but where it really misses me is when you win a championship, why would you run away from it? Like, that's the best time. You get to be a champion. Not only is he a champion, he's like a legend because he's already been a superstar quarterback there. I mean, he could go 0-11 or 0-12 for the next 4 years in a row, and I don't think anybody'd say fire him because of what he's done. I don't think he's going 0-11 or 0-12 for the next 4 years, by the way. I just don't see why anyone would walk away now. I had the same theory when people said, oh, we're going to go get Scott Drew now that he's won it at Baylor. He's won the national championship, so let's go get him. No, I mean, he's won the national championship. He doesn't ever have to win another game, and he's going to be a hero there.
It's true. I think you said that to me a few weeks ago. Like, he'll never have to buy a steak or buy a drink in Ann Arbor ever again for the rest of his life. I mean, it's done. And a tremendous accomplishment by him and that team. Great season for Washington as well. And we'll get ready for the rematch now on October 5th in Seattle, with Washington, of course, becoming a member of the Big Ten now coming up this summer. NFL, Mike, we have, as I mentioned to you, the Ferrall Coast to Coast Bowl on Sunday. My Buffalo Bills and you and Scott's Pittsburgh Steelers in Buffalo, Western New York. We've talked about this team a lot the last few weeks, how amazingly after the Arizona and New England games that they were even in this position, but they take care of business in Baltimore. They get the help they need from the Tennessee Titans on Sunday. And now you have Mason Rudolph starting a playoff game, but unfortunately, Mike, no TJ Watt out there to chase Josh Allen around.
It seems like it's always something catastrophic with the Steelers relative to the playoffs. Le'Veon Bell failed to finish, and I should, maybe failed isn't the proper word, but was unable to finish 3 consecutive playoff years in 14, 15, and 16 because of injuries. You had, in the middle of that, you had him and Antonio Brown missing. In the most awful circumstances, you had Ryan Shazier miss the 2017 playoffs, and as a result, they couldn't stop Jacksonville on the land or on the sea. They couldn't stop them. And then you've had in the past, like Taylor missed games, and now you're looking at the possibility of having to go into a playoff game, or the certainty of having to go into a playoff game without TJ Watt, certainly their best defensive player and maybe the best defensive player in the league. So it always seems to be something that gets in their way. It's the nature of the sport to a degree, but it's often the team that stays the healthiest that is able to get to the top of the trophy stand. And I'm not saying the Steelers were likely to get there this year, but their ability to have even a chance is compromised now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think there is maybe a neutralizing factor in this game coming up on Sunday, potentially, which is the weather. And that's weird to say, Mike, because you would think Bills at home, that's an advantage to them. They play in Western New York. They play in Buffalo. But as I say all the time, it's not an advantage to them because their offense isn't exactly built for a snowy, blustery day in Buffalo. It's built for indoors, speed, moving fast. So I think that's something that could absolutely help the Steelers as we get to Sunday.
When you play the way the Steelers do, which is heavy on the ground, you certainly still have to hold on to the football. And we saw Jaylen Warren struggle with that in Baltimore. It's probably a little bit different in a constant torrential driving rain than it is in a snowy circumstance. It may be a little bit easier for him to maintain control than when the ball is constantly wet. I guess it depends on the nature of the snow that falls on Sunday. But it could be an advantage for them to be in that circumstance. I've seen teams throw plenty, though, in snowy type conditions as long as the field is cleared. And we know it's going to be cleared. Unless it's constant snow during the game, and we have seen that at times. But if it's a pregame snow, even if it's a foot and a half, you know they're getting that field cleared.
And that's why you have the big-armed quarterback out of the mountains of Wyoming that you drafted, right, for games like Sunday when he gets that opportunity. And one more thing, NFL, Mike, you wrote a great column last week about a situation that once again has arose this weekend. Here we go. We have the Browns, who had more wins this year than the Texans, but they're going to Houston. You have the Eagles, who, despite finishing as bad as they did, have more wins than the Tampa Bay Bucks, but they are going to Tampa on Monday night, Mike. You mentioned the NBA in your column, and it's true. Like, at this point, Just I know they love it for rivalries and all this stuff. Get rid of the divisions. Just make it a conference and seed the teams by the record that they have.
No, I would not do that. I like the divisions. But what I would guarantee through divisional play is if you're a champion, you're in. I don't care. I said in the column, I don't care if you're 1-16. I don't think you could probably do that. But no, if you're 7-10 or 8-9 and you're a champion, you're in. Even if that's not the seventh best record in the conference. But in order to make it more equitable and more fair, and honestly, in order to make this last weekend of the season more interesting, I mean, because Cleveland they rolled out a high school team for Sunday's game in Cincinnati. They had no reason to play, and they weren't going to put anything at risk given the absolute vacancy of that game. So you want every game to matter, and in a scenario where there are division championships at stake, as we saw in the AFC South or in the NFC East, or in a scenario when the best record gets you higher on that seed board, everybody wants to play on week 18. So I think that's where the NFL's missing it. I do believe in divisions. I love the NFC North. I love the AFC North. Those are fun things that have got a lot of history, but the reward, if your division is poor, should just be being a part of the party. It shouldn't be some team that just finished 12-5, which is probably what the Browns would have finished if they'd cared on Sunday. A team that finished 12-5 in a division as deep and strong to produce 3 out of 4 playoff teams, that absolutely should not be punished. And that's something that the NFL has acknowledged and allowed to happen for way too long.
A couple of really good college basketball games tonight, Mike. Let's start with the number 1 team in the country and number 1 in this week's DeCourcy's Dozen, and that is the Purdue Boilermakers, who go to Lincoln to take on Nebraska, who actually not a bad start, 12-3 so far this year.
They're a pretty good team. It's going to be interesting because Purdue's going to face a lot of these types of games on the way to March. And they already had one at Northwestern, and they didn't deliver that night. But they're going to have to go on the road in the Big Ten against teams that are fighting for tournament bids. And I mean, Nebraska look at this as if they can get that one and then just do okay for the rest of the season, they'll get in. If they can get this one and win more than they lose in the league, they'll get in. Between that one and beating Michigan State, a couple others, they'll get in. And so it's a huge game for everybody that comes to town. With John Calipari, when he talks about Kentucky, he calls it everyone's Super Bowl. And for Purdue this year in the Big Ten, that's definitely going to be true.
I know it was a big deal for the Big 12 to get all these new teams because of football, but from a basketball aspect, we're starting to see the rewards of that. Really good BYU Baylor game tonight. Texas is at Cincinnati, who's off to a pretty good start, and even Houston into Iowa State tonight. So now we're seeing the basketball fruits of the new Big 12.
Absolutely. And I think that Texas-Cincinnati game is fascinating because Cincinnati's getting onto a lot of people's brackets because they have a great net ranking. I won't do it. If you've played 3 tough games and lost 2 of them, no, I'm not letting you in. But a home win over Texas would start them at 2-0 in Big 12 play, as well as give them another reasonably quality win. So I think that's huge for them. And then don't forget as well, Houston, which is number 1 on all the performance metrics charts. And they got to go and feel a little Hilton magic this weekend. We'll see how they do on the Big 12 road.
Duke is at Pitt tonight as well in the ACC. Pretty good game there. And I'm tired of going after Seton Hall. Every time I bet against Seton Hall, they win. They beat Marquette, UConn, Providence. They're off to a great start. Mike, we'll see you next week. Mike DeCourcy for Sporting News here on Coast to Coast.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I
favorite.
don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6th and the 7th seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles. Ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back, Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. All right, Joe, I have a lot of Harbaugh for you today because obviously big deal, finally wins at Michigan. Is he going to go to the NFL? We have several things to discuss. Let's do one here and then we'll finish it at the top of the hour. The relief, Joe, from Jim to finally grab the ring in Ann Arbor, going back there to his home, 9 years on the job. They tried to throw him out. Jim, very happy last night, Joe. Here he is.
Yeah, that was everything, It was just, that last phase line, that last one more game, and we won it. And so such a one-track mind for our entire football team. I just love it. That was one of our goals, win the next game. To have completed them all, win the big games, win the Big Ten championship, win the Rose Bowl, win the national championship. It just feels good. You just want to pull it down.
Look at your boy, Joe. Look at your boy. Look at your boy. I know you're happy for him, Joe. You love stories like this.
Listen, once Edwards ran into the end zone for a second
that's
tutty.
all you care about. Your pocket's fat. That's all that matters for you. Yeah, you're carrying
Washington,
47 loaves there today. You got 40. You need basically a bread truck outside your house after your night last night. So must be nice for you. No, Jim, very relieved. Finally,
yes, good for him. You think he stays or he bolts?
I'm gonna talk to you about this when we come back because I think the clip's very telling. I think some of the things he also said on the field were very telling. But I don't think I think he wanted to get this. I think this makes it easier for him, Joe, to go. I think bringing the championship back to Ann Arbor, he's not going to feel like he's leaving them high and dry if he does want to go and take that shot again at the NFL. All right, Ferrall Coast to Coast, hour number 2 on the grid. We're back after this.